We were the kids who left after breakfast and came back when we got hungry, with nobody knowing exactly where we were in between. We drank from the hose. Riding loose in the back of the truck felt like nothing at all. There were 18 ordinary dangers in a 1960s summer that would stop a parent's heart today, and we walked into every one of them barefoot and grinning. Most of these you lived. A few you had forgotten until right now. Number 1. The hose we all drank from. The afternoon got hot enough that our mouths went dry and sticky, and going inside was unthinkable with the whole day still out there. So we went around the side of the house to the spigot. The first water out was warm and tasted faintly of rubber, baked from sitting in the green coil all morning. We let it run. Then the cold come up from somewhere deep and clean, and we put our mouths right over the metal nozzle and drank until our stomachs hurt. Nobody thought about the lead in the line, or whatever the lawn had been sprayed with, or the spider that might have set up house in the threads. There was one rule about water on a summer afternoon. We did not go inside for it, because going inside meant the day might catch us and keep us. The bigger dares were already waiting out past the driveway. One of them was idling there, in the open bed of a truck about to pull out. Number 2. Loose in the back of the pickup. The road came at us in reverse, unspooling away from the tailgate while the wind pulled our hair flat, and the gravel sang under the tires. Tell that to anyone under 40 now, and you get the same stunned question. They let kids ride where? We rode in the open bed, sitting on the wheel wells, our legs hanging off the gate, facing backward to watch where we had already been. When it was the station wagon instead of the truck, we climbed into the way back over the folded down seat and lay flat with our chins on our hands, watching the road pour out behind the tailgate glass. The grown-ups were up front. We were cargo, and we loved it. None of it broke a single rule, because there were almost no rules to break. The federal government did not even require seatbelts to be installed in the front of a new car until the standard took effect on the first day of 1968. And installing them was the whole of it. Wearing them stayed a personal choice for years. Into the early 1980s, only something like 10 to 15 out of every 100 people actually buckled up. No state made belt use the law until New York did it at the end of 1984. And by then we were nearly grown. The bed of a truck sat outside all of that. There was no belt to skip back there and no seat to sit in. So we stood up at every stop sign to see over the cab. We braced a sneaker against the wheel well on the turns and waved at the cars stacking up behind us. The driver tapped the brakes, and we all slid forward laughing. That was the whole safety system, a tapped brake and a kid's own 2 hands. From the truck that carried us, we climbed straight onto the metal that had been baking all day in the sun. Number 3. Hot metal on bare legs. The slide stood at the edge of the lot and caught the full sun all morning, until the chrome of it threw back a glare you could feel on your face from 10 feet off. We climbed the ladder anyway. At the top we tucked our knees, and the second the skin of our thighs touched that metal, there was a hiss of breath through the teeth, and a half second where the whole body said no. We went down anyway. The burn was real and brief. It was worth it. There was no shade cloth over any of it, and no rubber poured under the swings. No sign anywhere said wait. The merry-go-round bar got hot enough to brand a palm. The monkey bars stood over packed dirt that had the give of a parking lot. We learned the heat of metal the way we learned everything that summer, by touching it and deciding the fun was worth the sting. When the sting was more than that. When a knee got scraped raw on the gravel under the bars, There was a brown bottle waiting on the bathroom shelf at home. Mercurochrome. Somebody's mother painted the orange-red liquid across the scrape with the little glass wand. It dried sticky and bright. And we went back out. From the metal that burned us, we turned to the thing that came down out of the sky in the front yard. Number 4. Lawn darts on the front lawn. One of them would arc up off somebody's hand, climb against the blue until it was a black mark at the top of its flight. Hang there a second, then come down point first into the grass with a soft, heavy thud. That was the whole game. And we stood around the target ring while it happened. The darts were heavy, a weighted metal spike maybe 1 foot long with 3 plastic fins, thrown underhand toward a plastic hoop laid out on the grass, and you scored by landing inside the ring. Through the whole of the 1960s, you could buy a set at any department store, boxed and sold as wholesome family fun for the yard. The grown-up version of the story is the part most people forget. The federal government looked hard at these things, and in 1970 classed them as a mechanical hazard, which meant warning labels and a stop to selling them in toy stores. They stayed legal as games for adults for years after the full ban. The one that pulled them off the shelves for good came from the Consumer Product Safety Commission and took effect in December of 1988, by which point the kids who had grown up dodging them had kids of their own. You have heard the darker version of this memory, the one where everybody knew somebody. The record is thinner than the legend, and the legend does not need our help. What it actually was is plenty. A heavy metal point thrown high, dropping fast into a yard with children standing in it. And a decade of us treating that as a Saturday afternoon. We got good at watching the sky. From the thing that fell out of the sky, we turned to the cloud we used to chase on purpose. Number 5. Running behind the fog truck. In the early evening, a low engine sound would come up from a couple of streets over, and dinner ended right then, forks down, screen door banging, because the rig was working its way toward our block. It moved at a walking pace and laid down a wall of white behind it that swallowed the street. We rode our bikes straight into it. Bare feet, no shirts, pedaling blind through a cloud that smelled faintly sweet and hung in the warm air, the same way the ice cream truck pulled us out front. Only this one we chased into and disappeared. The little kids who were too slow stood at the curb and watched the big kids vanish, waiting for the year they would be fast enough. Everybody on our block called it the DDT truck. And that is where the record asks us to slow down. DDT was real, and it was everywhere in those years, sprayed on fields and used against mosquitoes, until the federal government canceled most of its use in 1972, about 10 years after the writer Rachel Carson laid out the case against it. But the rolling foggers that ran through neighborhoods generally put out malathion or a related compound, carried in a heated oil that made the thick white cloud we loved. The cloud was mostly that oil. DDT did its work more often in the standing water, against the larvae, out of sight. So the chemistry was different from the legend. What stayed true is the picture itself. We rode through a man-made fog with our mouths open, lungfuls of it, summer after summer, and called it a game. The truck came and the street went white. A dozen kids on bikes rode straight into the blank of it. And the only thing anybody's parents said was to be home soon. From the cloud we chased into, we turned to the water. We threw ourselves down head first. Number 6. The slip and slide on hard ground. We screwed the end of the garden hose into the little plastic spout, turned the water on so it bubbled out along the length of the sheet, and backed up across the yard for the run. A long strip of thin yellow plastic staked into the grass, water sluicing down it, and a kid hitting it flat out and skidding the whole length on the belly. We added dish soap when the plastic got tacky. We went again until the lawn turned to mud. The thing had a real history under it. An upholsterer named Robert Carrier came up with it, sold it to the Wham-O Company, and it showed at the New York Toy Fair in 1961. By that September, 300,000 of them had sold at $9.95 apiece. It was the toy of the decade. The warnings that came later described a danger we mostly missed. The broken necks fell on grown teenagers and adults who hit the slick plastic and stopped short on a body too long for it. For us, small and light, the danger sat under the sheet. A lawn was almost never just grass. There was the rock that found a hip bone, the sprinkler head nobody moved, the slope that ran you off the end and into the fence. We slid the summer away on it. From the water that cooled us, we turned to the sun we baked in on purpose. Number 7. Baby oil and a foil reflector. The smell of it carried across the whole backyard. Warm skin and something like coconut and warm metal together. The older girls laid out on their towels and turning over every so often to do the other side. The point was to get darker. We rubbed it on thick so the sun would cook us deeper, and the bolder ones propped a square of kitchen foil or an old record cover under the chin to bounce more light up at the face. Somebody's sister mixed a little iodine into the oil for a redder color. The radio played. Nobody moved for an hour. Protection from the sun was barely an idea anybody had. The numbered system that tells you how long you can stay out, the SPF on the bottle, did not show up until the early 1970s, and even then it was years before most families bought it. What we put on was meant to pull the sun in. The receipt came about a week later, when the deep brown we were so proud of had gone tight and pink across the shoulders and started to peel in sheets a friend would help you tug loose. We called that the price of a good summer, and paid it every July. From lying dead still in the sun, we turned to the fastest few feet of the whole summer, the ones that ended in midair. Number 8. Plywood ramps and bare heads. A cinder block, or a stack of bricks if the block was missing, with a sheet of scrapboard laid up against it at an angle, and a long clear run up the length of the driveway. That was the launch pad. We hit it on banana seat bikes at everything our legs had. The front wheel caught the lip, and for half a second the whole bike came off the ground with a kid on top of it. Some landings held. Some folded the front wheel and threw the rider onto the blacktop. Every head out there was bare. There was nothing brave in it. A bike helmet sized for a child was simply not something a store sold. The first one that really caught on, the Bell Biker, did not reach stores until 1975. And a kid wearing a helmet to ride did not become a normal sight until the 1990s, long after all of us had grown up and put our bikes away. So when a landing went wrong and a knee opened up on the driveway, it went the way these things went. Back home, the brown bottle came down off the shelf. The glass wand painted the scrape that bright orange red, and the sting was over fast. We wore the orange the rest of the day, where everyone could see it, proof we had gone for the ramp and lived. From the air off the ramp we went looking for air higher up, as high as the branches would hold us. Number 9. As high as the tree would go. From up where the branches went thin and bowed under a sneaker, the backyard spread out small and the people in them looked like they belonged to somebody else's day. We climbed for the view and for the dare of it. The biggest maple on the block had a root the whole neighborhood knew, hold by hold, and you went up it until the wood got too young to trust. The garage roof was easier. reached by standing on the metal trash cans and pulling up over the gutter. Hot shingles under the palms and the whole street laid out flat. There was always the water tower somebody swore he would climb and never did. Nobody spotted you. Nothing soft waited at the bottom. The understanding was that you came down the way you went up, and that you never told your mother how far. This was the danger that left nothing behind to outlaw. From how far up we got, we turned to what we lit on the ground and ran from. Number 10. The 4th of July Arms Race. The smell that week was punk smoke and gunpowder. The slow orange ember of a punk stick passed hand to hand to light the next one. The whole neighborhood turned competitive around the holiday. Bottle rockets went up out of a glass soda bottle if you were sensible, and out of a bare fist if you were not, hissing across the street at the other kid's fort. Roman candles got leveled sideways and fired off at whatever was across the yard. There was always one family with the serious stuff. That part ran on geography. Fireworks were flat out legal in some states and banned cold in the next one over. So the kid whose father drove across the state line for the holiday came back a rich man. He set the terms for the whole block. A pack of bottle rockets was currency, hoarded and traded over the long week, and the supply ran exactly as far as that one car trip had stretched. We aimed things at each other that were meant to go straight up. And we counted it a good fourth if everybody still had both eyebrows by dark. The grown-ups were inside or around the side with their own sparklers, and the whole arsenal belonged to us. From what we lit and threw, we turned to what we squirted on the coals and leaned in to watch. Number 11. A squirt of lighter fluid. The black kettle grill came out to the edge of the patio, and the gray briquettes got piled up in the middle of it in a little pyramid that never wanted to catch. So the can came out. A long wet stream went over the coals, then a match, then a low blue flame that sulked along the edges and did almost nothing. Out came the can again. Another stream, heavier this time, right onto coals that were already lit, and then the soft deep whoomp as the whole pile went up in a sheet of flame that stood taller than anybody planned. This was a father's job mostly, and we stood in close around it the way you stand near anything that might do something. Faces lit up orange. Somebody's bangs got a quick curl and a singe smell that hung around. Nobody backed up much. The flame dropped back down into the coals after a minute, the way it always did, and then it was just the patient gray glow and the smell of starter fluid burning off into the evening. That smell meant the day was nearly done. Burgers soon, then the long blue dusk. Then the streetlights. The grill was the first sign the best part of the day was closing up. From the fire we crowded around, we turned to the machine we aimed downhill with nothing on it to stop. Number 12. The cart with no brakes. It started with a wooden crate, a couple of planks somebody's father wasn't using, and a set of wheels pried off a busted wagon or a stroller left at the curb. We built it in a driveway over a whole afternoon, arguing about the steering, running a length of clothesline to the front axle so you could pull it left or right with your hands. We were proud of that rope. We thought hard about how to make it go and almost nothing about how to make it stop. The test track was the steepest street anybody could reach, the one the grown-ups took in low gear. One kid stood at the bottom of the hill to watch for cars and wave you off if one came. The rest was gravity. You got a push at the top. The wheels started their rattle. The wind came up, and the only brake on the whole machine was the soles of your sneakers dragged hard on the road, or if it came to it, somebody's hedge. From the thing we aimed downhill, we turned to the war we fought in the woods with our eyes wide open. Number 13. BB gun wars in the woods. The empty lot behind the houses got divided into territories every summer, your side and their side, with a no man's land of scrub in the middle that both sides crept into. We carried Daisy air rifles, the lever-action kind you pump to build up the shot. More pumps meant more sting, and there was a loose understanding honored most of the time that you kept the count low, and you never ever aimed for the face. Then we went out and shot at each other, ambushes from behind the woodpile, a runner breaking across the open while two kids drew down on him, the long patient wait in the weeds for somebody to show himself. A hit landed with a sharp little slap and a yelp, and the kid who took it was out for the round, rubbing the spot and grinning. The welt came up red and round on a forearm within the hour, and we showed it around like a war story. Back inside the brown bottle and the glass wand again, a dab of orange red right on the raised welt, and back out to even the score. Nobody's mother got a phone call about any of it. This was just a Tuesday. From the welt we were so proud of, we turned to the bead of silver we passed from hand to hand. Number 14. The bead from a broken thermometer. It slipped off the edge of the sink or the bedside table and broke with a small bright sound, and out came the silver. A little ball of it, heavy and perfect, rolling loose across the wood. When you cornered it with a fingertip, it split into smaller balls that ran in every direction, then nudged back together, swallowed each other up, and went whole again. We had never seen anything move like that. We chased it across the kitchen table with our hands. Nobody opened a window. Nobody cleared the room or made a single phone call. Somebody's mother might mutter about the cost of a new thermometer, sweep what she could catch onto a piece of paper, and that was the end of it. The bead that got away rolled down into a crack in the floorboards and stayed there for the life of the house. The orange medicine painted on every one of our scrapes, and this silver toy on the table were, underneath, the very same thing. The same heavy metal that today gets handled in suits and sealed off behind tape. We rolled it over our bare palms and went back out to play. From the bead on the table, we turned to the live things we caught with our hands at the water's edge. Number 15. Snapping turtles and garter snakes. The creek bank was all soft mud and overturned rocks, and the first move was always to reach a bare hand down under the cold lip of a stone to see what lived there. Crawdads mostly, backing away with their claws up, grabbed quick from behind. We pinned the little striped snakes behind the head and carried them around in a pocket until they got loose in the house. Somebody always found the big snapper sunning at the pond edge, the one every grown-up in the county had warned us about, and somebody always tried to pick it up. There were jars of fireflies going soft and yellow on the back porch. There was the bee a kid would cup in two hands on a dare and let go before it figured things out. No gloves on anybody. No second thought about teeth or stingers or what a wild thing wanted. We caught it first and asked nothing after. From the things we pulled out of the water, we turned to the water itself. Number 16. The quarry. Nobody measured. The path to it ran back through the trees behind the development, a track worn bare by years of kids' feet, and no adult ever walked it with us. At the end of it, the ground dropped away into a flooded quarry, or a bend in the river, or the swimming hole the older kids had claimed. The water below going from green at the edge to a black that told you nothing about how deep it ran. We jumped into it anyway. Off a ledge, off a rope tied to a limb that had held 100 kids before you and that you trusted on exactly that evidence. The drop ended in a cold that grabbed the air right out of your chest. A shock so total your whole body clenched, and then you were up, whooping, swimming for the rocks to climb out and do it again. Somebody always dared somebody to touch the bottom. And on the deep jumps, nobody could. You went down into the dark and the cold thickened around you, and you came back up because your lungs made you. The climb back up the bank was all sharp gravel under wet feet, and we did it a dozen times over before anybody thought about heading home. There was no lifeguard within 10 miles of the place. Nothing fenced it off, and nothing marked how deep it got. The whole thing was as wide open and unwatched as a thing could be. That is the part that stops you cold now, looking back. The sheer absence of anybody standing between us and water that deep. We spent whole afternoons there and walked home dripping. From the deepest water we knew, we turned to the flattest little thing we made all summer. Number 17. A penny on the rail. The walk out to the tracks took the better part of an hour, down past where the houses ended, and the steel ran warm under a bare foot from a whole day of sun. We laid the coin flat on the top of the near one and stepped back into the weeds to wait. Sometimes the wait was long. Then the headlight came around the bend. The ground started to hum, and then the whole enormous weight of the thing went by close enough to pull the air sideways and rattle your teeth in your head. We scrambled up after it passed and hunted the gravel for our coin, gone smooth and oval, still warm, the face of it smeared into a ghost. The old story that a flattened coin could throw a train off its rails was never true. It only ever squashed the copper. We half believed it anyway and laid them down all the same. We pocketed the warm flat oval and started for home, because every one of these days ended on the same signal, and the light was already going long and gold over the rooftops. Number 18. Home when the streetlights came on. The light went long and gold across the front lawns. The first porch lamps clicked on one by one down the block, and somewhere a screen door let out the smell of supper. That light was the clock. We had been gone since right after breakfast. Scattered across a territory of blocks and backyards, of woods and water, that belonged to us and to no adult who could name where we actually were. No phone sat in anybody's pocket. Nobody checked in. There was only the morning we left and the law about when to come back. The one law. Be home when the streetlights came on. The lights themselves were the curfew, and every kid on every block read the same signal at the same moment and turned for home from wherever the day had taken them. We came in scraped and sunburned, filthy to the elbows. On one knee, half worn off from a whole day of living, was a faded smear of orange where the bottle had touched a cut that morning, gone now to almost nothing in the dusk. We had done every one of these things since breakfast. Drunk from the hose, ridden loose in the truck bed, chased the fog down the block, gone off the high ledge into the cold of the quarry. The streetlight coming on was the only alarm anybody thought we needed. We were home, and we had come through the whole day without once knowing it was a thing a person could fail to do. Go looking for that brown bottle now, and you will not find it on the shelf. The orange-red liquid that closed every scrape of our childhood, that stained the bathroom sink and our knees and the inside of every medicine cabinet in America, is gone. The government pulled it from sale in 1998 because the thing that made it work, the thing in the name, was mercury. The same silver bead we chased across the kitchen table got painted onto our open cuts and called medicine, and it sat on the shelf next to the aspirin for 50 years. That is the joke at the center of all of it. The cure had a little danger in it too. Nobody knew, and we grew up fine anyway. The streetlights still come on at the same hour they always did. Somewhere a kid is being called in for the night. We are the ones who walked all those dark blocks home. We drank from the hose, went off the high ledge, ran straight into the white cloud. And we are still here to tell it. The bottle is gone from the shelf. The orange stain faded off the knee a long time ago. The day it came from has not faded at all.